And we're live.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you are locked in until the point with
Skip.
and the King. You guys know where to find us by now. Facebook, Instagram, all to the point on YouTube, which is hopefully where you're watching us. You guys know where to find Simon, Amazon.ca, Running the Point, SimonBroder.com, Dougie J's on Twitter. Make sure you guys go check that out. Skip.
What's up?
Guess what?
What?
Guess who's back? Back again. Freddie's back. Tell your friends. Come on! Ladies and gentlemen, the Toronto Raptors just re-signed Fred VanVleet for 4 more years at the cost of $85 million, but I think it's worth it. Skip, how do you feel about that re-signing?
Oh, I'm happy with it. Obviously, as I've mentioned a few times before, not quite as high on VanVleet as some people are. I think he's got some weaknesses to his game, some difficulties inside. Obviously, the size is an issue. The finishing, not really someone who sees the floor in the same way that Lowry does. But he's a great shooter. He's a good ball handler. He's obviously a really ferocious on-ball defender. So he's earned it. Like bet on yourself. He's earned this payday, and so he's deserving of it. And the Raptors, they're going to need some guards once Lowry moves on. It's time to pass the baton on to the next generation at some point. So I think this is a really fair deal. I was concerned the Raptors might go up to 25, 26 million. You're talking about $125 million 5-year contract or whatever the max is. And he's not really a max player, but I think the $21 million is a mild overpay, but you knew he was going to get paid. He was one of the top free agents on the market. So it's good that the Raptors managed to keep their guy.
Yeah, I think that's great for the Raptors, especially if you said carrying the baton with who they drafted, Malachi, right there. He can also be
Flynn.
A future player. Yep. He's got some upside. There was another signing that the Raptors made. There was a big man, Skip. Do you want to tell us about this?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, obviously, the Raptors, their whole big man rotation was in flux, with obviously Gasol being questionable and Ibaka being questionable. So obviously they waited on those guys. Those guys have since moved on. Not
Hey. We'll get into that in a minute.
Too fine a point on it. So the Raptors immediately went out and they signed Aaron Baines to a 2-year deal. I think it's $14 million for a 2-year deal. It's actually really only a 1-year deal. The second year
14.9.
Yeah, but the second year is a team option or a non-guarantee that basically, if the Raptors are going after Giannis, they're going to cut him loose and cut some other guys loose. So they brought Aaron Baines in, they brought Boucher back, and then just today they brought in Alex Len on a minimum salary deal. So obviously, with these guys, you're not getting Gasol and Ibaka's level of, stardom. Gasol's basically a Hall of Famer or a fringe Hall of Famer. Ibaka's a very good player who's played different roles throughout his career. Baines, I think it's just kind of more of a Celtics situation where obviously Baines was the starter for the Celtics for a couple of years. And going into the playoffs last year, everyone was like, oh, the Celtics don't have a center. And then Tice stepped up and was really just a solid guy. Not really one of their guys, but he was always he did his job on the floor and let everyone else flourish around him. Wasn't really a weak point, just sort of that average center to build your team around. I don't know too much about Baines' game. I know that he's a really good screen setter. I think he's okay on defense. He can hang in there sort of like in a JV sort of way. He can be a big body around the rim. Not really a guy you want to
shoot, which is what's needed.
Well, yeah, he can shoot. I think he did shoot a lot of threes last year with the Suns. I think it's going to be more of a JV shooting situation where it's like if he's like Valanciunas, I mean, when he was wide open, he was taking those threes, but he's not the kind of guy you want to have pump faking and like taking contested threes. It's more like if the other team isn't even going to guard him, then yeah, he's going to fire away some threes. sort of like Gasol for that matter. So I think he's going to be just a solid piece. But I think there's no really way to dress this up as anything more than what it is, which is the Raptors got a little bit worse this year
Just dressing. That's what it is.
because they want to leave cap space open for Giannis. Because they want to keep cap.
Bingo.
Remember that part. Remember that part. So this year, it's not a rebuilding year. It's not a retooling year, but it's a year of let's just try and spin our wheels and stay in the playoff hunt until we can make a big move.
See, you nailed it right there. Staying in the playoff hunt. Because there's been a couple teams in the East that have made some pretty good acquisitions. I would like to say with Milwaukee.
Yep.
Okay. Acquiring Drew Holiday in that trade, which actually worked out well. They also got DJ Augustine, who's a pretty good shooter, right? And
Yep.
they also have Bobby Portis Jr., right? So I think they've added some solid pieces, and I think that's more on Milwaukee's front office trying to keep Giannis there on the team to give him what he needs. I think they look pretty good coming up this season compared to the Raptors because there's other teams that have bulked up. I got to ask you, what did you think about Philly bulking up, Skip?
Well, Philly, what did Philly do? So they traded Horford for Green, and they traded Jay Rich for Seth Curry, and then they brought Dwight in. So I see what they're doing. They're trying to space the floor a little bit. They're trying to build the roster
Doc Rivers at the coach
works around Embiid and Simmons. That's just a little bit more fluid, a little bit more wide open. And then they added Dwight Howard to be a little punch in the middle, that backup center role they've been chasing for years. As always with the Sixers, I'm just going to say I believe it when I see it because last year was a mess. It's Daryl Morey coming in and doing his Houstonization of their roster. It might work, but it never really peaked out in Houston the way that we hoped. And in the end, they just ended up with no picks and a terrible team, a terrible roster situation, which is why Morey left in the first place. So, yeah, the Sixers they're dangerous. They definitely could be better than the Raptors next year. I could see why they're doing what they're doing, but I'm not that. I'm going to believe it when I see it. And as for Milwaukee, I want to circle back to that. So, I think they would have been more scary if they got Bogdanovich in that sign and trade that fell through.
But that's never going to happen.
No, it's over. It's dead. It's over. But the Drew Holiday thing is big for them just because Bledsoe was so bad in the playoffs the last 2 years that they're just like, we need a better version of Bledsoe. So getting Holiday
about an upgrade.
Well, Bledsoe was supposedly good that whole time. It was like everyone was like, "Oh, he's so good in the regular season," and then he would get into playoffs, and it would be like, "This guy, you can't even play him." So Holiday presumably will be better than that. Those other two guys you mentioned don't really scare me much. Portis, he was kind of good for a couple years with the Bulls there, but I don't think he's a game changer. He's a useful piece. And who was the other guy that we mentioned on Milwaukee?
DJ Augustine.
Oh yeah, well DJ's he's a nice little backup. He's a nice little backup point guard. Yeah, he's solid. Former Raptor, I think, way back when.
Okay, but I gotta ask you, everybody that watches our show that knows what you love and what you like, they already know you don't like this. You're the Boston Celtics. They beefed up as well. I think they dropped a sandbag in the ocean, and now they're going to start to sail by getting rid of Gordon Hayward and picking up our Torontonian boy, Tristan Thompson. How do you feel about that when it comes to the Raptors?
Well, first of all, we can't talk too much trash about the Celtics now after they beat the Raptors in the playoffs last year. I think the Hayward thing...
We or you?
The Hayward thing, it's one of those moves where it's good on paper, but I don't think it actually makes them better. Like, they were better with Hayward on the team, but it makes all the sense in the world to move on from him and let him go somewhere else, because he was always hurt. He made way too much money for what he was to them. So yeah, they needed to let go of that contract, but losing Gordon Hayward still makes them a worse team. It doesn't make them $26 million worse. It makes them like $10 million worse or something. And then Tristan Thompson, yeah, okay. I mean, he's going to be a useful center for them. Like, is he better than Tice? I guess he's their backup, really.
He'll be a backup.
He'll be their backup, maybe. He might be the starter, but I think they'll still want to get Tice some run. So yeah, I'm not super worried about what they did from a Raptors perspective, other than the fact that we saw last year that they could beat the Raptors, and the Raptors just got worse. So I think the Celtics and the Raptors actually both dropped a peg, but the Raptors maybe dropped a peg further than the Celtics, if that makes sense.
So Skip, where do you see the Raptors right now in the Eastern Conference? What position do you see them in? Well, I can tell you where I see them.
I'm going to hedge a little bit.
I want to hear what you got to say.
I'm going to hedge a little bit, but I think the easiest answer to that question is the 5th or the 6th seed. I think they will be a comfortable playoff team that will not necessarily have home court advantage on the first round. I think they always overachieve, so they could sneak up to the 4 or the 3. They could take a bigger step back than we expect and drop down to 7 or 8. But I think for the most part, it's just a question of them dropping a couple spots and some other teams getting better and just passing them in terms of regular season wins. But I still see them as a fringe contender, a good team, playoff team. What do you think?
I look at Milwaukee, I look at Brooklyn, I look at Miami, I look at Boston, I look at Philly. I see, and the moves they've made. I see the Raps.
Don't forget Indiana too.
I see the Raps mostly getting maybe 6 at the most, because the Eastern Conference is pretty stacked now, right? And one of the reasons for that is some of the players from the East, especially your Toronto Raptor players, Serge Ibaka going to the Clippers in the Western Conference there.
Serge Ibaka.
What do you think about that?
Back with Kawhi, reunited.
Nothing but love for you, Chef. Nothing but love for you, man. We love what you did. I love your post that you put up. It was great. But Skip, what do you think about this?
Well, I think there's some complicated things going on here. First of all, the Raptors obviously wanted him back because he's a great culture guy. He's a good player. But I don't think he was ever all that great when he was here. He was always a backup. He always had some weaknesses in his game. The Raptors were always better with Gasol on the floor. So when I saw there was a feeding frenzy, 10 teams looking to sign him, I was basically prepared for him to move on. I was like, okay, the Raptors, they can't go big on this guy. They can't give him a huge contract. They already did that once, and he's in decline. He's a bit of an older player. You don't really want to get stuck with Serge for multiple years. So I was really preparing for Serge to move on. But then I saw the contract, and I was like, $19 million for 2 years? Like, the Raptors couldn't offer him that? That's what surprised me more than anything.
It could have easily.
Yeah. And then it came out that they offered him $12 million over 1 year because they wanted to keep the cap space open for Giannis next year, which I get. I mean, but when you see what he got from the Clippers, like, they couldn't have offered him like $19 million for 1 year and then not given him the second year or something. Like, that's where I'm a little confused. But all in all, I think, if he wants to move to LA and hang out with Kawhi, and I don't think he makes them drastically better. I think they were better with Montrezl Harrell, but the thing is that people are saying that they might be a happier team with Serge there. They might be a happier team with Serge there than they were last year with Harrell. So if you think things like that matter, then more the power to him. But I don't think Serge is a real impact player anymore. He's a guy who, he has his moments. He's a starter or he's a regular rotation player, but he's not the kind of guy that you're going to really rely on to be your focus, your starter. So we'll see how it works out with them. But best wishes, Serge. No hard feelings here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are so sorry about the technical difficulties we just had. Sorry, I know you saw me and Skip glitching like we were in the Matrix or something like that, but we apologize for that. So let's continue to proceed on these topics concerning the NBA. Skip, you were talking about a certain Raptor that just left. I'd like to hear more about that, please.
Well, I was just talking about Ibaka, but I think we can move on to Gasol at this point because in addition to obviously losing Ibaka to the Clippers, the Raptors also later to yesterday lost Gasol to the Lakers for what looks to be a minimum salary deal. There was some talk about the Lakers were trading JaVale McGee to open up a little more salary room to sign Gasol. All that sounds to me is like Gasol really wanted to be in LA, and he didn't want to play for a Raptors team, which we haven't even mentioned this yet, but a Raptors team that will be playing in Tampa Bay next year, which might have seriously influenced Ibaka and Gasol's decisions. You wonder, like, if they were playing in Toronto, if they were playing in front of fans, is the appeal of LA more? Is the appeal of LA less? It's hard to say. But maybe playing the idea of playing for a homeless team versus going back to LA. Maybe Mark wants to hang out with Pau, get his Lakers ring to show up his brother. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. So that's the end for Gasol's Raptors career. You can't complain. He got to drink wine on the bus and raise the trophy, so you can't really hold too much against him. Mark Gasol. So yeah, what do you think about Mark going to the Lakers?
What in the hell is going on in the NBA right now? Are you serious? Does LeBron really need that many players to help him win another chip? Are you serious? Is this GOAT conversation like the biggest thing of his life? It sounds like a little kid saying you're never going to be doing good. And then the kid's like going to recruit everybody and get all gangster and buy all kinds of things. No, what are you talking about? I'm looking at these Lakers right now. I'm absolutely disgusted that Marc Gasol would, if any team went to the Lakers, at least go to the Spurs where your brother started, or the Grizzlies or something, right? Now the Lakers got Schroeder. Oh my goodness. They signed Wesley Matthews. And then they got freaking Montrezl Harrell from the Clippers. Okay? And that's the reason why Ibaka went to the Clippers, was because to fill that void.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? How much more of a super team? Listen, Skip, we can go into this all day, and I would love for Andrew Reese to come on the next time we talk about this. But LeBron is not the GOAT. When you need all of this, they re-signed KCP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They had to let go of JaVale McGee. Dwight Howard left. Okay? But you still have what is quintessential a super freaking team. I do not understand this. I am disgusted by this in the NBA because to me, basically everyone went to the East and LeBron just kept it in the West. Like, what other teams are going to compete with them in the West right now? All those teams are solid, but none of them made a splash in free agency or trading or when it came to the draft. They didn't really make a splash, which to me seems like, I don't know, I like to put on my tinfoil hat sometimes and say, like Rich Paul, Clutch Sports, LeBron, recruiting, bring these guys over. You know what I mean? Just using and abusing them to take these championships. I don't care. You're 4-6. You can never be the GOAT. No matter how hard you try, no matter how many Space Jams you have, you can do a whole freaking trilogy for all I care. Okay? To me, this is absolutely disgusting that all these guys are going ring chasing right now as opposed to winning. To me, like, Skip, 5 decades now watching the game. Okay, on my fifth decade watching this freaking game, our beloved game, and seeing what's going on, to me, it's absolutely disgusting. I'm appalled. If the Lakers make it to the finals, to be honest, like this year, I really wouldn't care. But what other teams in the West can actually get at them? I
Well,
seen
hang on, hang
only
on.
team
Let me
in the
let me
West to
just let me
build
just stop you
what?
right there.
What?
So we're calling Dennis Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell its super team now. Like these are good players, and they won a title last year, and they upgraded, but they upgraded their weaker spots. Like Harrell is a nice player. Like he's a 6-man candidate. He's not a freaking superstar. He's not. It's not like they brought another AD in. Now, like if they go and recruit Giannis now that's a super team. That's a team I'll have a problem with. This is just like LeBron's always had ring chasers. He's always had Channing Frye and like J.R. Smith and like just these guys who like opt out of their deals and sign minimum salary contracts to go to the Cavs or to go to the Heat or wherever he's playing. And that's what Wesley Matthews is doing. And it's annoying. Let's be honest, it's annoying. But like it's not a big deal. Wesley Matthews isn't going to swing a playoff series by himself. He's a piece to fill a void, to make them a little less weak, a little less vulnerable in one particular spot. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. They got better, and they're definitely the clear-cut favorites now, I would say, based on the Clippers downgrading from Harold to Ibaka, which is a downgrade, is what it is. And obviously the Lakers being the defending champions and getting better. So yeah, I'm concerned. I think the Lakers are probably the favorites, but I don't think there's anything nefarious happening here. This is just what happens. The Lakers attract good players. That's how do you think your boy Kobe won so many titles? Because everyone went and like, oh, we're gonna go play with Kobe. Like, yeah, same thing.
Get out of here. When Gary Payton and Karl Malone went to the Lakers, they didn't do nothing. They didn't do jack.
Yeah, and Wesley Matthews probably isn't gonna do
Okay.
jack anyway. But moving on. We don't have all day here.
Yeah, Karl Malone, Gary Payton. Anyway, on the Western Conference, Skip, there's also, I got to ask you, what do you think about the Phoenix Suns making their upgrades? Because they're the only other team that's making some noise in the West.
Well, it's interesting to see they're bringing CP3. They got that 8-0 obviously finish in the bubble, which is giving them a little momentum going forward. They definitely seem like a team that's primed to take that step. Obviously, with Booker, with Ayton as a nice big man in the middle. They've got a few other pieces kicking around. I couldn't name a lot of names off the top of my head. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to jump in and like knock off the Lakers or anything, but I think CP3 can definitely do for them what he did to the Thunder last year and have them be, a feisty 6 seed or something that scares some team in the first round. But yeah, they're going to make the playoffs probably based on this move. They're probably going to lose in the playoffs. I don't see them as a huge threat, but it's exciting for their young guys to get that taste and try to push them to the next level. Yeah, so that's a good deal for
And
them.
Skip, you just said this. The OKC. What about their fire sale that's
Well,
going on over
they're
there?
trying to set the
Where
record
they're just
for
getting rid of everybody.
they're trying to set the record for most picks ever for a team to own at one time. They have like dozens and dozens of draft picks. And people are saying, "Oh, well, Sam Presti's the best GM in the world because he has so many draft picks." But as we've seen as Raptors fans, like
Yeah, but can he pick them?
yeah, as we've seen as Raptors fans, like if you can find a Fred VanVleet outside the draft, then you better be using your picks well. And if they're not lottery picks, then they're not really that valuable. So his second round picks, like, okay, he's got a lot of second rounders. Great. That's a lot of the time having too many second round picks is actually a bad thing because it just means you have to cut somebody else because you pick someone in the second round and you don't have a roster spot for them. So you got to cut somebody. So the second round picks aren't that exciting to me. If he can turn some of those, if those Houston picks turn into lottery picks or something, then that's when it starts to get really interesting. And it's like, OKC could be the next super team. But I also saw someone pointing out, if you think about it, if you look back, the Thunder traded KD, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook to get a whole bunch of picks. So it's like, okay, so they have a whole bunch of picks. Are they going to draft 3 more MVPs with those picks?
And they traded Paul George for how God knows how
Well,
many
yeah,
picks.
and then there's other deals in there too, Ibaka too. But yeah, so obviously Presti's done a great job. I'm not really dissing him. I'm just saying like there's a lot of people getting really excited about how many draft picks they're getting, and it's eventually you gotta pick a player that could do something, and that's going to be a decade down the road at this point.
It's
Yeah,
like it's like Danny Ainge on your it's like Danny Ainge on your favorite team, where he's got a treasure chest
yeah,
full of draft picks,
yeah.
right? And so far, what he's done has
Well,
been pretty comparable.
the Fultz deal was pretty good.
So, Skipper, is there? Speaking, I want to ask you. Speaking of OKC and their fire sale,
Yeah.
what do you think about Houston and their position right now with the possibility of Westbrook and James Harden leaving?
Well, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, we'll have to see if if any of those players actually do get traded. Because at this point, all Houston's done is get rid of their coach and their GM. They haven't really made those big moves. That everyone's been gossiping about it, like, oh, Harden's going to the Nets. I mean, the Nets will be dangerous if Harden goes to the Nets, or like Westbrook's going to the Wizards. But it's all gossip. It's all this. None of this stuff's happened yet. So I think we should cool our jets on the Rockets, and maybe there's still the chance they could try and run it back. It seems unlikely right now because guys are requesting trades, guys are looking around, but they made a couple of sneaky good moves. They signed Christian Wood to a nice little contract. He's an exciting center.
Who?
Uh, he was on the
Who?
Pistons. He was a nice piece on the Pistons. He's young. He's good. People were getting really excited about him. And they signed somebody else, another center
We'll
today.
see how that plays.
I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but the Rockets, like, so they could be moving away from the whole. They lost Covington. They're moving away from the way they were built last year. They're probably moving into more of a retooling phase, get younger, move out the old vets. But if the market's not there, you're not going to trade Harden for like a second round draft pick. Like, you need a star in return. And the only team,
No.
and even like that Brooklyn package of Levert and Jared Allen, a lot of people are saying, just keep Harden. He's under contract for a couple more years. Just you need to force someone to like ante up and give you an even better package. Um, so I wouldn't go counting our chickens on what Houston's going to look like until they do pull the trigger on one of those trades.
This is all speculation.
Yeah. Uh, but that idea of Harden on the Nets, I mean, people are getting really excited about that. Um, Harden and Durant and
Oh yeah.
Kyrie, but keep in mind, KD is still coming back from a huge injury, and Kyrie's always a little bit of a spark plug. So yeah,
Well,
what do you think
I
about
think if Harden, what I think about what?
the prospect of Harden going to the Nets specifically?
I think that could put them in the number 2 spot in the Eastern Conference. To be quite honest, it depends on what they have to give up. Because Jared Allen, Levert, or Dinwiddie are going to have to be part of that package. Any combination of those players are going to have to be part of that combination. So what are you going to lose for them? If
And what do
I
you?
was the GM, what's that?
I said, and well, what are you gonna have left basically if you trade all those guys? You're gonna have 3 basically guards slash wings and DeAndre Jordan, I guess. And what else? Like, it'd be depending on how big the package
Yeah,
is, obviously. I mean, I think you have to give Levert up
but
in that trade.
they'll still be powerful.
Yeah, I
They'll
mean,
still be powerful if they can
oh,
keep
they'll
Jared
be.
Allen.
They could be the 1 seed for all we know. I think they could be a team that goes to the finals and loses to the Lakers. That's their upside if they get those 3 guys. So I wouldn't blame them for doing
That's what a
that.
lot of people on the street are telling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Bucks might still beat them in the regular
You
season.
can definitely see that happen.
And there's your super team right
but
there.
quite possibly not. Yeah, that's a good team compared to the Lakers. Skip, any other notable free agency signings that you've seen?
Oh, there are too many. There are too many to know. I don't even know. I'm drawing a
What's
blank.
notable?
I'm drawing a
Stands out
blank.
to you. Well,
Oh, well,
Gordon Hayward going to Charlotte.
there's Gordon Hayward. There's
Rajon Rondo going to Atlanta.
well,
Uh,
okay, the Hayward signing's
anything?
bad. Let's be honest. The Hayward signing's bad. First of all, they're signing Hayward to a big fat contract. We just saw how that worked out in Boston, where he was hurt the whole time.
Overpaid.
Overpay, and then they're getting rid of Nick Batum in the process. Like, what are they doing? It's just a dumb deal for them. I mean, I guess they think he's a star, but come on, guys. The one team that I'm actually kind of interested in is the Hawks. The Hawks are making all these little moves that are just like sneaking up on you. Like they got Rondo, they got who else did they sign today? They signed
Gallinari.
Oh, they signed Gallo. That's the big one.
Yeah.
Oh, let me look it up here.
They signed a few people, man.
They got
They
Chris
signed
Dunn.
Rondo. They signed Gallinari. Rondo's going to, Chris Dunn. They're
Chris
doing
Dunn's
a
a
lot
nice
of
little
little things.
defensive player.
It might be like that Atlanta Hawks team a couple of years ago where it was just nobodies.
Well, no, the thing is with
like
them.
Jeff Teague and all those guys.
Yeah, I know the team you're
they were
talking
just
about.
winning.
I know what team you're talking about. I don't think it'd be built like that. The problem with the Hawks last year is that they had a terrible defense with Trae Young as their point guard, and they just didn't have a whole lot of defensive consistency and intensity. So what they've done this year, they brought in a little bit more defense, a little bit more of a well-rounded core, and then Gallo obviously is more of an offensive player. But I think they're just trying to make that step and become this, maybe an average defensive team with some young stars on offense. And I don't think they'll be world
They're
beaters or
probably
anything.
just trying to beat out Orlando for the 8th seed.
Exactly. I think they try to get to the 8th seed this year, try to get Trae Young another year or two of experience. Keep in mind, like a lot of these young players haven't played in like a year, so they're gonna be moving up like faster than we expect. Yeah, I can't think
any
of
other
too many
notable
more trades, really.
signings, Skip?
Yeah, I mean, we could go deep, but no, I think we covered most of it.
Neither can I. Guys, we could be here for the next 3-4 days just talking about all these trades.
It's so hard to keep them all straight, man.
But these are the most notable, and these are what are most effective for your Toronto Raptors. Guys, I hope you're optimistic, just like myself, especially Skip over there wearing the Lowry jersey. I hope you guys are just very optimistic about this coming year. Let's be honest. This offseason has not turned out that well for them. Let's see how far they can go as a team, having the coach of the year, who is the man and understands stuff. They have Kyle Lowry.
But keep in mind,
a very ferocious player.
Keep in mind, it's okay if we don't have a great 2020. If we go out and get Giannis in 2021, like we're the favorites all over again. So there's always that.
It's a wrap.
There's always that. There's always that.
It's over. But the way Milwaukee's been building up their team, it's seeming highly doubtful. But
we'll see.
Raptors fans, let's keep optimistic. Stick with your team. Stick with the love. Skip, I didn't even tell you. Normally I always talk about my mom.
Yep.
My mom was so happy when I told her Van Vliet re-signed.
Of course. Favorite player.
She was like, who, what else happened? I said, Ibaka and Gasol left. She was like, oh. She got all upset, but at least she's happy her boy Van Vliet re-signed.
Yeah,
which is just like you, Raptors fans.
The only NBA player who's as tall as you.
The highest paid undrafted player ever in the NBA. Anyway, guys, we hope you guys stick to this. We'll see you very, very, very soon. Okay, Skip and I are working on some few things that we'll keep you guys posted on. You guys let us know what you want us to talk about. please, that would be so great. Maybe you can even come on the show and we could talk with you on a Zoom chat or something. I don't know, because we would love to hear what you have to say as a Raptors fan and as of what happened just recently. We hope that we just covered the last couple days well enough for you guys to get you guys caught up. As Raptors fans, you guys, not me.
And you gotta watch this, guys, because opening night's only about a month away. Like, we're coming up on it pretty quick.
Yeah, December 21st, baby.
Yeah,
And trust me when I tell you, Christmas all day, I'll be sitting in front of my TV.
of course you will.
No questions asked.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, I do every year. That's my regular tradition, Skip. Been doing it for like 30 some odd years. Anyway, guys, on behalf of myself and the skipper, we hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but make sure you guys tune in and check us out. We're doing this for you, not for us. Just know we love all you guys out there. We love you Raptors fans, how you guys keep that energy. You guys are just as big as the engine for the Raptors. That is Kyle Lowry. Skip, show him the shirt, man. Show him the
Kyle
shirt.
Lowry.
Show him the shirt.
Oh, you want me to turn around?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
No, you don't want them to see Bargnani on the back.
You can't even see it. Hair's too long.
No, you can't.
There we go.
We go. All right, guys. On behalf of myself and the skipper, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and
Peace.